This is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and this is going to be a cool one at that. What we're doing is maybe about 8 months ago, actually, I was in Houston, Texas at this very spot and installed a plastic crate garden, as you guys can see behind me. These are basically just using the standard plastic produce crates. We filled it up with a good raised bed / potting soil mixture and planted some plants in it. And a few things that happened since the 8 months. And we're going to go ahead and give you guys the updates about what's going on here and how we're going to actually expand and improve and plant out the new fall crops coming right up. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take you guys on a tour of the crops that did the best here. Now, you know, when I set this up last time I was in town, got set up with a composting system and the little crate garden here, but we didn't do an irrigation system because it wasn't quite in the budget. The main thing is to remember to water, especially in the hot Houston sun. You know, the soil will dry out and you want to give the plants an adequate amount of water. If you don't give the plants enough water, they're going to be stressed out, and then either they're going to not make it or they're not going to produce well. I think it looks like to me that some of the plants didn't quite get enough water because a lot more should be alive right now, but that's all right. Live and learn, and I want to encourage you guys to live and learn. But even with irregular watering, many of the plants did make it. So I'm actually going to show you guys which ones are super hardy plants. So if you live in Houston or anywhere else, you might want to consider growing some of these plants because they're really strong. And even if you don't take perfect care of your garden, some will still make it. So let's go ahead and give you guys a quick tour. So here in the garden bed, you guys can see some of the marigolds made it. We have one tomatillo plant that still made it. Let's see, in this bed I think we got maybe a few mints still coming up. This bed actually got dug out by the dogs. This bed actually did quite well even for little care. These guys here is actually called Go-To Cola, one of my favorite herbs. You can also eat, you know, leaves in your salad as a leafy green. Another one really good right here, it's a succulent. It's actually called Cuban oregano. Did good with little care. The stevia here actually you know, got mostly kind of messed up, but it's still alive. Of course, the regular hilltop oregano did quite well because actually they like low water anyways, and as did the hot and spicy oregano over on this side. Next we got this guy, and this is probably the plant that did the best here. So if you want a low maintenance garden in Houston or many other places, I'd recommend you guys grow this guy right here. This is actually called the shiso, the green shiso. It's related to the mint and basil family. I like the leaves a lot. They have a nice, cool flavor. I like to add a few leaves to the salad. Give you some herbal scents. In addition, a lot of the mint actually didn't make it, but you can see there's still a few sprigs that did make it. I was expecting to come back and see the whole, you know, bin full of mint. And then also another plant that did quite well with even minimal care was the standard sorrel, garden sorrel there. Once again, more marigolds. You know, a few of the tomatoes made it. Looks like they had some troubled times, but they got trellised up, and check it out, they even still have a few tomatoes on there. Another one that did quite well that I'd recommend you guys grow in a hot climate like this is the basil. I mean, the basil probably is one of the best plants to grow. It's still like really tall, really productive, and growing lots of basil, that means lots of pesto or even spaghetti sauce. Or just take some and put in a jug of water, leave it in the sun, have some sun tea, or just you know, put some basil leaves in water in the fridge and let it seep for like 24 hours, and you'll have some basil flavored water instead of just drinking, you know, plain water. Finally, the plants that did fairly well here were the standard peppers. I think we got some small varieties of hot peppers. The other thing I did last trip was set them up here with a composting bin set up. They got this at the Costco. I think it was about like $150. They normally retail for about $300. And yes, that is a sizable investment, but for that investment in 8 months, they did two things. Number one, they diverted waste that would normally go to the landfill. So what does this mean? This means that, you know, they didn't have to carry, you know, pounds and pounds of garbage bags and take it out to garbage to go to the landfill to not compost but to rot, create further methane gas. They were able to use those resources on site, and they mixed it with some horse bedding, that basically compressed pine pellets, and the food scraps, and put it in the tumblers, and it worked out about right for the amount of waste they generate. They'll fill up one side, keep spinning it in every day. As soon as that side's filled, they'll go to the other side and keep going back and forth. When both are full, then they're going to empty the first one and then start on this one again and keep spinning that one. And let me show you guys the results of the last 8 months. The result of the last 8 months are bins and bins full of compost here. You can see, I mean, a lot of it looks really good. Nice finished compost. Now they didn't screen it actually, so there are still a lot of pieces out. So what we're gonna do is actually screen some of it this time to actually use in the new garden beds we'll be putting in. It looks like they have a total of 6 crates, and I don't know if they've actually already used some to spread out over other plants or they've just been collecting it a while. But let me tell you guys, compost is probably one of your most valuable resources that you can produce free on your land to enrich your garden. One of the things I want to do here, you know, while I'm here is get some kind of sifting system, you know, because we don't want to be putting really big parts of stuff back into the soil. So what I picked up was a little laundry hamper basket, and literally what we're going to do is we're going to take handfuls of this soil and just you know, put it in here and just shake it out. And what's going to happen is we're going to get all the big pieces left in the basket. I mean, this is a low-tech version of a compost sifter if you don't want to build one. And it's going to keep the large chunks, and we're just going to go ahead and put the large chunks back into the composter to break down further. We're going to use this soil as well as some other soil we purchased previously to expand the garden and plant out the fall and winter stuff. And in addition, to make the garden better, because I always want and encourage you guys to improve your garden, we're actually going to put in an irrigation system today, a drip irrigation system on a timer, so now we know the plants are going to get an adequate amount of water so that they'll fully produce. You know, if you don't water your plants enough, they're going to be stressed out. If your plants are stressed out, you're going to reduce the amount of food they're going to generate. So for this reason alone, I always encourage you guys to, you know, make an investment. The irrigation system, the soil, things like that are one-time investments. Once you got them, you'll never have to buy them again. And yes, I know, you know, it can get expensive for the garden we're putting in now. It costs about $100 in irrigation parts. I probably bought a few extra things, so we'll be able to return some. But still, you know, that's a pretty penny. The irrigation controller in itself was like about 1/3 of that cost. But nonetheless, I feel this is a great investment to, you know, put money to where it's needed the most, and to make the investment in yourself and your family's health, because there's no higher quality food that you can eat than stuff you're growing in your backyard in your own compost and rich soil that includes trace minerals as well as mycorrhiza, bacteria, and other soil microbes that's going to literally break down the organic matter and make more nutrition for the plants. So what we're going to do next is actually we're going to get this ready to get planted out. We'll come back at you showing some of the progress. So the first step in the garden edition is getting some good compost. So we're having to sift this stuff out. 2-person job. We got somebody shoveling here and putting it in the little sifter there, and then I'm just taking this and just shaking it gently back and forth. And as you guys can see out the bottom, we're getting this nice sifted compost. I mean, this thing was only $1.49, so this is totally low tech. I recommend you guys build a real compost sifter if you got some money. I mean, I think I built one for like under 10 bucks. I have a video on that, but this thing works nonetheless. And what we're doing is we're sifting this on a big giant tarp. Also on this tarp, besides the compost, we're gonna mix in some different worm castings, some trace minerals, some organic fertilizer containing trace minerals and soil biologics, plus some standard enriched raised bed soil. So I'm gonna get back to work and sift more compost. So we're just got done mixing up this stuff, and I want to go over with you guys what we did. So we used some of the homemade compost you guys saw. We used like basically 50% compost with 50% of the raised bed mix that we previously bought, and we mixed that all together. I like to have a wide variety of different things in the soil, not just any one thing, and I wouldn't grow in straight compost. I'd like to mix it with the raised bed soil we got, but in addition, got to add a few more things. We added right here, we added the worm casting. So the worm casting is actually a slow release fertilizer for the plants, but besides just the nutrition in the worm castings, there's also the beneficial fungi and bacteria in there that's really good to help bring soil tillage. Other thing we added here is the Minerals Plus. So at the time I made this video, this is the best trace mineral supplementation that we could find. I've since found that there's Azomite available here in the Houston area, and I'll put a link actually down below the video on where you guys can get that stuff. And then the other thing we added too is this stuff here. This is a MicroLife multi-purpose all organic biological fertilizer. So not only does this have the 70 trace minerals, which is like the rock dust, but it also has like 76 different kinds of soil microbes, including beneficial bacteria and the fungi, plus other plant nutrients in here. Be sure to stay tuned for a future episode, actually, where I share more about the MicroLife fertilizer. It's actually a fertilizer that I would use and I approve of because it's more than just an organic fertilizer. It's an organic biological fertilizer, which builds a whole food soil web. Most conventional fertilizers, made in a chemical factory, will kill the food soil web. This stuff will enhance it because it's actually adding some of the bacteria and the fungi that you definitely need for a healthy garden. What we're going to do next is actually we're going to go ahead and fill these crates up, because once again, you can look at these crates as little miniature containers to grow in. So we're just going to go ahead and take the soil, fill it up in the crates, and then we're going to actually plant the new plants in it, and then we're going to put in the irrigation system. As you guys could see, we originally had 12 of these crates in the backyard crate garden. This actually looks like a nice long, literally 4 foot by, I don't even know, like 10-foot raised bed. So there's 12. We added 3 more, so now we have a total of 15. So this increased the garden by 20% more space to grow more plants. I always encourage you guys at the end of each season or before the beginning of the next season, expand your garden. Keep kind of making it a little bit larger so that you guys can grow more of your own food as you guys get the hang of it. So what we did next is we filled out the brand new ones, and then on the old ones, we left some of the summer crops, because here in Houston, while it will freeze, it doesn't freeze till later in the year. We are here in November. So we have left some of the peppers and some of the basil and one of the tomatillo and some other of the crops here. Normally I might pull them out, but we want to just kind of see what'll happen. I always encourage you guys to keep your plants in the ground if they're still living and they're still producing for you. If it does freeze and they don't make it, then that's a good time to pull them out. But I always like to give a plant a fighting chance to grow to its full potential, put on as much fruit or leaves as it possibly can as well. In addition, I went through and just kind of cleaned up all the beds, so I removed all the things that weren't totally doing well. I removed all the dirty leaves, and on top of the existing beds, what we did was we took some of the new compost mixture that included extra worm castings, the MicroLife fertilizer, and the rock dust, and we actually added and amended to the top of each bed. So that's what I like to do at the end of each season, is just basically amend to and add more nutrition to the top. Because the thing you want to remember is that as the plants are growing in here, they're pulling nutrients out of the soil. You want to minimally put back in the soil what the plants put out. John, do you have a formula for this, man? Like, what do you exactly put in? What are the plants pulling out? I don't know, man. Put a whole bunch of worm castings, rock dust, and the MicroLife fertilizer and call it a day. So next, as we got all these guys prepared to plant out, we're going to start planting things out. And what we have to plant, we'll go over with you guys. So this is the perfect time here in Houston to plant out the fall and winter garden crops. And these are the crops that are cold hardy. So even if it should frost or get cold, these plants will be unaffected by the cold. Literally, these plants have like a built-in antifreeze, like in your car, so that they will resist freezing. So what we got here is we got a graffiti cauliflower. This is a really cool variety of cauliflower. It actually has a purple cauliflower. I always encourage you guys to grow your foods of color besides just the standard white cauliflower. They got purple and orange, and even I've seen a green before. We got some kaleidoscope mix. These guys are cool. I started planting these myself. This is actually a cross between Brussels sprouts and kale. So they grow tall like Brussels sprouts, and then they're just edible kale leaves you can eat. We also got things like the celery here, and even things like some hot and spicy mustard greens. Now, all these crops are fine to grow in a mild climate here, like in Houston, or even places like California, where it doesn't get too cold. In addition, we have some of my favorite plants to grow right here. These are my favorite kales right here that we're going to talk about next. This is actually called the White Russian kale. And then here we got the winter red kale. And if I look hard enough, somewhere we also have a improved dwarf Siberian kale. The Russian kales and the Siberian kales in general are sweeter than the other kind of kales. These are the kales that you want to grow in the wintertime because they like the cold weather. They will bolt fairly quickly in the warm weather. For example, the lacinato kale or the dinosaur kale or the Tuscan kale is a crop that'll really do well in the summertime, and it's a lot more, stronger tasting. So I really like the mild kales that I could grow in the fall and winter. And I always encourage you guys to embrace the seasons. Grow foods that are going to do well in that season and eat lots of them while they're still here. I think aside from that, we got some good standbys here. We got the good old Georgia collards. I love the Georgia collards. They do well in places that stay warm year round and have a higher sustained temperature. Like I grew the Georgia collards successfully in like South Florida. Like kales wouldn't grow for beans in South Florida, but the Georgia collards like maintained and grew for a long season. In addition, of course, we can't forget the Swiss chard. The Swiss chards are going to do well in this area. I expect them to live at least a year and be harvesting, leaves off this plant. Now, all these plant starts, no matter the size, I mean, some of these guys were an amazing deal. This is available at Southwest Fertilizer here in Houston. They're only 99 cents each. So think about it. You could buy a bunch of kale, organic kale or Swiss chard, like $2.99, $3.99 at Whole Foods. You eat it, it's gone, poof, your money's gone. You guys buy a plant start for 99 cents, you plant it. Literally, you guys could be eating chard leaves or, kale leaves for the next year, depending on the crop. Some might only last 6 months or whatnot. But you'll be eating for a much longer period of time. It's much less expensive to do. Plus, the food you're gonna grow yourself is much higher in nutrition than the stuff you could buy. And the bonus is, guess what? It tastes better too. So the last two crops I wanna share with you guys real quick are, we got some standard lettuces. I'm not a big fan of growing lettuces because lettuce to me is like a high maintenance girlfriend. They don't really, attract a lot of bugs, and they'll grow for maybe a month or two, and then they'll kind of bolt and they're gonna be done. Like to me, something like kale or collard greens is a much more valuable plant because it'll last literally, for at least twice as long as the lettuce will before you have to pull it out or it goes to seed and flower. So I'd much rather grow the kale and collard greens and just buy the lettuce. So we got only a few lettuces. Another green that I really like, and it's less maintenance than the lettuce, actually is right here, and it's gonna do a fabulous in this climate. It's actually the Joy Choy, whether you get bok choy, Joy Choy, or other choys. These guys are amazing. I like to eat the leafy greens. They're nice and mild flavored, similar to lettuce. And then my favorite part is actually the stalk, which is a nice watery, neutral flavored stalk, full of water and absorbing the nutrients and minerals from the soil you're growing in. So we got a ton of plant starts here, maybe 50 or so. What we're gonna do next is actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and do a layout and kind of set them where I'm gonna plant them. And one of the things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the taller plants and kind of put them in the middle. So when you're looking at the bed, it's gonna kind of look nice. The taller plants are gonna be in the back, so you could reach over and grab them. And the smaller plants, for now, are gonna be in the front. So it'll be really interesting to see how this all grows out later in the year. So currently we got the plants all set up. We're getting the plants planted out, and while the plants are getting planted out, I'm gonna put in the drip irrigation. One of the challenges I believe happened, and I wasn't here to see it, but over the last 8 months, the plants got irregular water. Looks like some of the plants to me got kind of stressed out, and some of the plants didn't make it. And the other thing that's important is, they're just watering with this standard hose, and oops, man, got wet. One of the things is that this actually has been leaking. The other thing is that they never got a proper watering nozzle. I encourage you guys, especially if you're gonna spend money to buy soil and buy plants, to get the right equipment. Trying to unscrew a Phillips head screwdriver with a straight slot doesn't work so well, and watering your plants with the hose without like a nice even dispersal, like you want a head for your hose that kind of makes it like the rain, so like the water just doesn't run out, because if you're putting it on too much of a stream, the water just may overflood the sides and not get even coverage. So even better than getting a nice watering spout is to put in a drip irrigation system or an irrigation system. I like the drip irrigation system the best because it's going to conserve the most amount of water, and this is going to be on an automatic timer, so literally you don't have to show up to be able to eat some food. This is going to go off on a little timer. This timer here is about $30, and this one actually particularly runs on 2 AA batteries. And I recommend that you guys get alkaline batteries, and brand new alkaline batteries. Don't use a standard carbon zinc. And while you can use rechargeables, you do need to pay attention to make sure the batteries don't go out, because if the batteries go out, then your plants are not getting watered. The nice thing is this one actually has a battery indicator, so it'll say okay if the battery's okay, and you'll know when to change them, because it'll actually let you know if you just take a glance at it. So today we got the Melnor water timer. It's available at Home Depot. I got this particular one because actually it has a nice long warranty. These guys are known to fail and break. This one actually had a 7-year warranty. So if any time within the next 7 years this fails, you can get it replaced. I think that's definitely something really important. Many water timers may have a short, like 1-year warranty, which I don't necessarily recommend because let me tell you, I've been through my share of water timers, and having to buy a new $30 water timer every year isn't any fun. So get one with a long warranty. So these guys are super simple to install. We're just basically at the hose bib right here, and we're just gonna unscrew the hose, and what we will do is we're just gonna put in this little T. So once we put in the T, we could put the hose onto this side. We're gonna put the water timer on the other side, and then we're just basically gonna use some different connectors, including a one-way valve to only let water flow out into the irrigation system and not back into the municipal water supply or the house, and connect up our hose, run it over to the raised beds, and then install little drip emitters. Now, this hose and this stuff, don't be scared of irrigation. This is like the simplest irrigation. There's no glue, no putty, no tape needed. You literally just take the hose and you shove it in here and you kind of wiggle it in, and it's pressed to fit, and you're all done. So, and I have other videos on irrigation if you specifically want to, know that. I'm not going to get into the specifics here, but I'll show you guys a shot of after it's all set up. As you guys can see, we've been working into the night with a little flashlight and some of the floodlights in the back patio, and we got it all finished. I ran the irrigation just like I said, splitting off the faucet into a T, running into the irrigation timer, and connecting all the tubing using different connectors. We have actually 4 runs or 4 lines running down the middle of this, so we can kind of get like 3 main rows that are planted out, and we planted out like, I don't know, it'd be like 50 some odd plants or so in here. Now, because this is set up on an automatic watering system, you don't have to water this stuff, and there's also a rain delay you could hit on the button. If it does rain, you could turn the watering system off, and it's just definitely really cool. Actually, it just turned off because we did a trial run to see how much it would water, so we ran it actually for 7 minutes. We had it dripping out, and what I always encourage you guys to do, because everybody always asks, John, how long do I water for? I don't know how long you're going to water your garden. It's dependent on several things. The rate of the drip emitters, how much water they flow out. These happen to flow out 2 gallons per hour at a certain PSI. We adjust the PSI actually with a ball valve, so we could adjust it to just drip out or to spray out. I like it when it more drips out, and I'd rather have it drip out for a longer period of time instead of spray out for a shorter period of time. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to go into the bed with your finger and kind of see if it's wet all the way around. Like up over in this area, it's still not super wet, so you might want to run it a little bit longer if you want to get this area wet when the dripper's here. Basically how I posted the drippers is I posted the drippers near each plant, so it's going to get each plant at the plant root zone, so we're going to conserve water. So I'm probably feeling fairly confident that the 7-minute, we might maybe up it to 10 minutes, is going to do well. The other thing that's important is you have a good soil, so we have a good soil here, it's going to drain out, so I'd be more concerned about underwatering than overwatering. But then again, you do need to be careful. You don't want to overwater too much, and you don't want to underwater too much. You just want to get the right amount. So they do sell moisture meters that you can buy at the lawn and garden store to check the moisture levels in the soil instead of having to use your finger, and that's probably the proper way to do it. Anyways, it's been quite a success this trip here, checking up on the crate garden and the compost setup that I helped my friends set up, and we got them all planted out for the winter, so I can't wait for my next visit to be literally eating out this garden. It is really that simple to grow some food. Literally, we just got some crates, filled it up with some good potting soil or raised bed container mix, and we're growing food in. We set up an irrigation system, and it's as easy as that. And you guys could totally do it too. I encourage you guys to subscribe to my videos if you're not already, and be sure to check my past episodes if you haven't seen them already. I have a wealth of knowledge shared in each and every episode. Until next time, I want to encourage you guys to keep on growing, eat your fruits and vegetables, and we'll see you next time.